can see the stream. You can only see me. You're not actually looking at what's going on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. If you had, I mean, if you were able, I know you're using your phone now, but if you had another device, you could see all the stuff that was going on YouTube too. And you'll see, because I wanted to, before I actually transitioned to you and I had a few ITV trivia questions that I wanted to see if people could answer. All right, how was everybody? I see we got some folks in the house already. We should have some more folks joining. Chris was able to make it. Chris, I know you had to work today, so it's really cool you were able to make it. Boy, we have some, I think I pronounced that name Sue. Hopefully I'm not butchering that name. Welcome, TJ, Jinhan in the house. As always, a Dark Side regular. Appreciate that. So thank you guys. We should have a lot more folks joining on, and we do have something special for you guys. So the plan, you guys, is to do a number of things. Number one, we're going to start out, we're going to do some ITB trivia to see how much you guys know about the show, since we're all such big fans of the show. And then we'll get into, hey, what's going on, Jinhan? And then we'll get into some Q&A with Daniel Wu, and then we'll go from there, you guys. All right. So again, we'll wait a few minutes. We got some more folks hopping on. As a matter of fact, what I'm gonna do is so I gave them a heads up on Facebook, so they should be coming on too. So, all right, you guys. Well, while we're doing that, while we're waiting for more folks to hop on, let's do some ITB trivia. See what you guys know. What's going on, Mike? All right, so I have a few questions for you guys. Going to give you 5 questions about Into the Badlands, and let's see what you know. So here's our first question. All right, so this is the first one. Where did Sonny first end up outside of the Badlands? These are your choices, so you can put them in the chat box. Choice number 1 is A, the Throttle Camps, B, the Bordeaux Mines, or C, the Sentinel's Gate. What's going on, Marcus? So that's your first trivia question for ITB. Where did Sonny first end up outside of the Badlands? Was it A, the Throttle Camps, B, the Bordeaux Mines, or C, the Sentinel's Gate? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, Kai has B. Chris has B. B, okay. All right, B. B. All right. Anybody else? B. B, Bordeaux Mines, B, B. All right, awesome. Yes, sir. So you guys know a little something about ITB. Everybody got that one right. Yes, the first place that Sonny ends up when he leaves the Badlands is the Bordeaux Mines. Oh, somebody put C. No, B is the right answer for that. It is B. That is the first time Sonny comes across Baji in the Bordeaux mine. So that's what he finds out. He finds out a little bit about what life is like outside of the Badlands. Let's try number 2. Ah, how about this one? What is a subtle sign the widow is getting ready for battle? What's a subtle sign that it should say that the widow is getting ready for battle? Number or A, her hair, B, her earrings, or C, her necklace. Is it something that goes on with her hair? Number A. Is it something that goes on with her earrings, or is it C, something that goes on with her necklace? All right, so we have 2 people to say A. A. Okay, congrats everybody, folks piling in. A. A. Wow, a lot of A's. Ronan, hey, what's going on, Ronan? Hey, Monty. Hey, Mark. A. All right. Sly is thinking, not sure about that one, but most people say A. All right. Yeah, so here's the thing, you guys. This one is really interesting, but if you look and see, TJ says maybe A. If you look and see, in most of her fight scenes, her hair is partially down. In some cases, it's almost always down, but that's a telltale sign. And you can fact check me on this. If you go back and you look at her fight scenes, the one thing that is almost always consistent with her is that her hair is at least partially down or almost always down. Oh, you guys are good. I'm surprised. I didn't think you would get that. All right, you guys, here's another one. Okay. So when did we meet young Waldo? At what point did we meet young Waldo? What episode was that? Was it A, Dark Phoenix Revives, B, Black Wind Howls, or C, Blind Cannibal Assassins? So let me know what you guys think about that. All right. So Taylor says C. Jinhan C. Ronan C. Wayne C. Sly C. Chris C. Okay. C. Okay. All right, Golan. What's going on, man? Hopping in. C. TJ 100% C. Mike says C. Kai says A. Okay. All right, so the answer to that is C. One of my favorite episodes was Blind Cannibal Assassins, and I remember a while ago speaking to Daniel about that whole episode. But man, that was one of my favorite episodes. Was Blind Cannibal Assassins. So you are correct about that. That one was C. All right, 2 more. Okay. Where was Sonny first found by Quinn? So where was Sonny first found by Quinn? Is it A, the Rabbit River, B, Crates Run, or C, Miner's Alcove? Where was Sonny first found by Quinn? All right. So it looks like we have A. Looks like Lee's going with B. We got a couple more A's. A. We got some folks that know a little something here. Some true fans. A. All right. Awesome. Ronan says that's a trick question. Okay, so trick question. Sonny was found by Waldo. All right. Not sure. All right. Let's move on to our last one, but you pick A. Okay, Ronan. All right, so let's move on to our last one. Okay. Who was the Baron of Textiles? Was it A, Jacoby, B. Chow, or C. Rojas? Who was the Baron of Textiles? What do you guys have? This is our last one. A. Jacoby. B. Chow. C. Rojas. All right, Wayne says C. And don't cheat. If you guys are out there, don't cheat. C. C. All right. TJ says it's not B. That's all I know. C. 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 Okay. All right, Sue, no clue. I know I'm mispronouncing that name. I'm so sorry. All right, the answer to that is C. Rojas was the Baron of Textiles. So I figured we would start out, you guys, by throwing you guys a little bit of ITB trivia. I know that you guys are excited really about getting to the interview that was done with Daniel. So I want to get to that so that we can get through some of your questions. But I do have something that I do want to share with you guys because you guys remember I told you that we would have a little bit of a surprise. So what we did is, and you know what? Let me just show you guys right now. All right. So you can see the man is right there. This is not a recorded interview. He is actually on live. You guys, he is with us tonight, giving us some time. So Daniel, you can say what's up to the people.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Surprise, surprise. How's everyone's quarantine life doing?
All right, you guys. So Daniel is with us live. He's gonna take some questions for us. He's quarantined like the rest of us. It might be a little bit of a different life for him though.
Yo,
So
I'm about to put this on Instagram live too, but do you know how to do that?
I do I do not
Where
know
do
how
you
to do that, Daniel. That's a good question.
where there used to be a button. It disappeared. I'm confused. Anyway, don't worry about it. Go you can go ahead.
Okay.
I'd like to try and do this on the
I mean, you can fool around with it. I'm not sure how to do it. I'm.
Oh, here you go.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because my Instagram game is really weak.
Okay, we're here we are live on Instagram with Al from Dark Side Movie Reviews, and we're gonna do some question and answering.
All right, man. Well, first off, thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us. We definitely going to spend a lot of the time on ITB because that's the bulk of the questions that we have here.
Sure. One thing though, you just said I overheard you say your favorite episode was the Blind Assassins
Yep.
episode. I got a little prop here from that
Oh, do
episode.
you?
Do you recognize it? Remember there were
Wow.
like shelves and shelves of
Yeah.
these, right?
Yeah.
So this is my morbid sense of humor as I asked for one of these as as one of our departing gifts. So I have a unborn baby in a jar here.
That's something.
And then hold up, there's some more props. Here's Sunny Sword.
Ah, Sunny. So that's for you, Jinhan. That is Sunny's sword. Jinhan.
Yep. And hey, does anyone recognize this sword?
Ah, and that's Moon sword.
Moon sword,
Yeah.
right? So I got these out for you guys today, and they're here in the background.
Well, that's very cool, man. I need you to mail one of those to me. Don't worry, I'll give you my address in case you haven't, in case you forgot it. So, um, yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite episodes. But I wanted to catch up with you just to see how you were doing, and before we get into ITB and then some questions from the folks here, just to see what things you're working on now presently. I think I saw in your filmography that you worked on something a film with I think Hugh Jackman.
Yes. So in November, I worked on a movie called Reminiscence, and that was directed by Lisa Joy. She's a writer producer of Westworld, another one of you guys' favorite shows.
Yeah.
Um, an incredible director to work with. She came up with this great role for me to play, and I can't say too much about it. But here's my character's name. So if you watch the movie, look for it. Saint
St.
Joe.
Joe. Okay.
So
Can you?
But yeah, it was an incredibly awesome experience because I haven't done much since Badlands. I took I did a movie in Asia and China, and then I came back and have been taking some time off, letting my body recover from all the beating it took from 4 years of fighting like that. And so this was the first project, the first American project I've done since Badlands.
Okay. So are you able at least to tell us what the genre of that movie is? Can you say that much, or you can't say that much
Uh,
yet?
Sci-fi noir.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's definitely in a similar wheelhouse of what we're doing, or
Okay.
what we did in Badlands.
Okay. So I also wanted to ask you something. This is a little bit off from Badlands as well, but I know when I follow you on Instagram, you're always doing something with some kind of car, whether it be working on a car or whether it be driving a car. How
Right.
long have you been into cars?
I would say since I was like 11 or 12,
Oh wow.
I had a subscription to Auto Week when I was like 12 years old.
Okay.
So, but I didn't really get back into it until I came back. Like when I was a teenager, I had a car that I like changed some things out, changed the suspension, blah blah blah. But once I moved to Asia, especially Hong Kong, you can't. It's illegal to modify cars there, and it's also really expensive, and there's no place to drive. So I just stopped really doing it while I was there. So for 20 years, I took a break on cars, and then when
Okay.
I moved back here to the States, uh, I got back into it again.
Okay. All right, Daniel, give me 1 second. I'm going to try and adjust your image on on the stream a little bit. So
Mm.
let's see. There we go. I got your head cut off. That's why I'm going to try and adjust it. There we
Oh,
go.
okay.
Pull you down some. All right. There we go. Okay, that's better. All right. So, all right, let me ask you then. So, if you're a car guy, do you
Yep.
prefer American muscle cars or exotic cars?
Uh, I don't have a preference. I like interesting cars. So
Okay.
whether it's an interesting muscle car, I don't choose mainstream stuff that everyone else has. I like to have things that other people don't have, or a more niche group of things. So if you look at my collection, it's very eclectic. I have Japanese cars, I have American cars, I have European cars, I have everything. I just like good design, actually. So
Okay.
if it looks cool and it's designed well, I'm into it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to ask you about that too because I noticed we see a lot of posts and things about cars. I know we see a lot of stuff with you on the track as well. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you also. So
Yeah.
I know that you're into cars. Does your wife also like to drive as well? Does she ever join you like on the track or anything?
No, if you look through my Instagram, I posted this one time that she actually rode in the car with me when I was on the track, and she's screaming the entire way through. So she doesn't enjoy it as much. I think it's a control issue with her. I think if she was driving, she'd be into it, but she doesn't
Okay.
want to ride with me.
Okay. So, on and on that note, I'm just curious. Since you do like cars, did you see Ford versus Ferrari?
Oh yeah,
What'd you
definitely.
think?
So the first week, you know, I liked it a lot. I think I was really impressed with the that they went into the Pete Miles story. I mean, the Ken Miles story in detail because a lot of people don't know about his influence on that. But but I think it was obviously heavily biased towards Ford because they try
Hmm.
to make Ferrari look like they're like this big evil bad guy when in fact Ford was the giant corporation with billions of dollars to go attack this small little race car company. So
Yeah.
it's kind of not really fair to say that like Ferrari was the evil guy when really Ford was they just weren't into racing and they just wanted to win this, so they threw a lot of money at it. So
It's
you can look
interesting.
at it from two perspectives.
Well, it's funny you say that because I read an article saying the same thing. At that time, Ford was the giant. It just so happened that Ferrari had the corner on that race, and
Yeah,
Ford wanted
Ford wasn't into Le Mans, right? Ford
right.
wasn't into that kind of racing, and they decided they wanted to, so they bullied their way in. And so that's what I think is not fair portrayal is that actually Ford was the bully and not Ferrari wasn't the bad guy. You know,
Yeah,
they were just hard to beat.
yeah. So no, I thought it was really good too. Did you feel one of the things I thought that I really liked about that movie, which some people commented about the movie, is that when I was watching the racing scenes, and it'd be interesting to know what you think about this because you've actually been in the seat of a race car. I did feel like I was in the seat of the car. It did a good job of putting me in the driver's seat.
Yeah, that was excellent. The action work was great. So it was a combination of like practical racing and I think some CGI, but the mix of it together was like really exciting. I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I definitely wanted to ask you about that. Now we'll transition to some ITB stuff. I'm sure they're chomping at the
Okay,
bit to get into that. So I'm starting off with my own questions because I'm running the stream.
sure.
So the first question that I wanted to ask you, because I remember a while ago when we were talking about Into the Badlands, and you were saying that the show really is kind of like a forerunner. You thought in some sense it may have been before its time, and now we've had shows that have come out that have been martial arts shows. They're not like Into the Badlands, but it's interesting because none of them have been able to really capture what Into the Badlands has done from almost every kind of aspect to me, not just the martial arts aspect, but even a performance aspect. Is there a reason why you think shows have not been able to kind of capture that essence?
I think, I mean, there's multiple reasons. There's a couple, I mean, one being budget. We had a really big budget, and that's also probably what led to our demise as well,
Okay.
because, we were in the $6 to $7 million per episode budget range, and that's a lot. Most shows are like three or under, right? And then you have Game of Thrones, which is around 10 or whatever. But we were expensive to make, and the reason why we were able to do what we were able to do is that we had a unit shooting action all the time, as well as we had another whole unit shooting the drama. So we had two units going at the same time. Each crew had like 150 people. So that's all. That's basically two productions going at once, and that's why we were able to do it. Because I've heard from the other martial arts shows is they shoot like normal shows. They shoot like a week of drama. They shoot a week and like maybe 4 days of drama and then 1 or 2 days of action that they get to film. Whereas we have per episode, we have as many days to film the action as we do to film the drama.
Okay.
And so that's why our fight scenes are so detailed and so well shot, is because we had time to shoot them. We had 6, 7, 8 days to shoot one fight scene sometimes. you know
So that makes sense because you do, when you look at ITV, one of the things that you notice that really stands out about that show are the details with the fight sequences, and I mean details from the broad shots that we get to even the intricate movements that you might see some of the cast members do, and you wonder like the amount of work that had to go into that. But that makes sense. If you guys had more time to shoot that, you could be more detailed in its execution.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of most standard shows, and then this is the why action is not really so great on TV and stuff like that, is because they get a day for like one episode of action, and that's hard to film anything good with a day. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do stuff, but it's very, very difficult. And so, a day for us is maybe 30 seconds of a fight. You know what I mean? If that at all. And so it's complicated, but basically the way we do it is how you would do it for a movie, and not for TV. And I think that's why other shows are not able to replicate it. But on top of that, our budget also went to costume and set design, which was also incredibly good.
Yeah.
And compared to other shows, I think we were again film like instead of TV like. And in
Yeah.
fact, all of our directors, everybody that worked on the thing, we were all trying to do movie quality work and not think of it as a TV show.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it does come across that way. It strikes you as something very cinematic, from the visual appeal to the martial arts execution and even to the acting. The show had so many levels where it was really good. And I think that sometimes when you look at a show like ITB, you kind of have a main focus of, okay, we really need the martial arts execution to be really good, but the other stuff doesn't have to be that good as long as we can live and die by those scenes. um,
Sure.
and ITB doesn't do that. It gives everything is magnificent in the show.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, what you're describing there is what I said this many times, and people are laugh at it, but I say you can't make it like porn.
Mm,
Like, porn, you skip the storylines to get to the action, right? So you can't make action movies or any kind of action film or TV show like that.
right.
Whereas like it's all about the action, but the storyline is secondary, right? I mean, we deal with that, but the ones we really really like and hit home to us, the drama is good or equally better or even better than the action or on the same level. That it all connects in as one harmonious whole as opposed to a disjointed thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because I feel like because the show is so good in so many different areas, I feel like each area fuels the next. So when we get the drama of the widow or Sonny or Quinn and their interactions, we're so engaged in those characters that when we do see them fight, it makes even that experience for us as fans even heightened because everything is interesting. So all the
Yeah.
different kind of moving parts of the show are interesting. So speaking of moving parts, how did you guys come up with the different concepts of the folks that were within the Badlands, like the whole idea of cogs and all those types of things? How did you come up with that idea?
That was a lot. I mean, Alan Miles really created that whole structure and the sort of caste system that's in the Badlands, and that came from them trying to kind of recreate feudal Japanese times or any kind of feudal hierarchy system, where you go from everyone from a baron all the way down to the slaves, the cogs at the bottom, right? And then they came up with these really creative names that we could use that were not. We didn't want to have them connected to history that we know about. We wanted to make new history, but also make it understandable. So not use words like slave or this and that, to not have those connotations,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of create something new in general. But Alan Miles are really good at the world building element of it. The story is famous that I wasn't really meant to play Sonny in the very beginning
Yeah.
because I wasn't sure. I also wasn't sure what was this world they were going to create, because it could have been like a very kitschy world, because at one point they said they wanted to make it like Man with the Iron Fist. And so I wasn't 100% in on it yet until they created the world. And when I saw what they did, I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is now. I like what they've done, and decided to go for it.
Yeah, it's funny because speaking of Man of the Iron Fist, which if you guys didn't know that, he was in that movie. So,
Right,
um,
right,
yeah. So it's interesting because I feel like Into the Badlands does a lot of things in terms of giving people a lot of what they want, even if you're into different genres. Like if you are into kind of that high flying. How do I pronounce that word, Daniel? Is it wuxia? How do I pronounce it? Is it
Wuxia. Xia is pronounced like Shia. Xia.
okay?
Wuxia. Yeah.
Okay, so if you like that element of martial arts, it gives you all of that, and it hits on that note. It hits on the dystopian future note, all of that. But it kind of takes it to a different level because it sprinkles different elements in there that we haven't seen before, like kind of like the feudal Japan, the fusion element. But then even when you look at
Right.
the dystopian element, it's not drab, it's not dull. They kind of changed that paradigm by making it very vibrant, very colorful. So all of these different notes are hit in this show that really kind of pulls you into the narrative. We talk a lot about immersion factor on this channel, and
Right.
this show has a very, very deep immersion factor.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes to give credit to Alan Miles for creating a really diverse world. That's because we wanted the show to be good, not just a martial arts show. That wasn't the goal. It was just to make a martial arts show. The goal was to make a really good show that had all these elements in it. And I think, if anything, we would say Comic Con really was our biggest inspiration. Like all the kind of themes that we see at Comic Con, we
Yeah,
wanted to hit all of those, but do well and also make them work. I mean, it's one thing to say that you want to put all these elements together, but it's a whole other thing to actually make it actually work,
yep,
right? And I mean, much like the way Westworld right now is doing, hitting kind of every major theme that sci-fi has ever written about, sci-fi literature has ever written about. They've hit all those topics and explored them very deeply in a really comprehensive way. And that we try to do the same thing. We go, okay, we want some wuxia elements, and we're going to make those authentic. But we want the drama to be really authentic. We want the steampunk thing to be
yeah.
authentic. We want the world building, the structure thing to be authentic. We want all of it to be relatable to different people, and hopefully bring a whole bunch of niche groups of people together with this one show. That was kind of the goal.
Now, and were Miles and Al, it looks like they were specifically trying to diversify the cast there too. 'Cause that's again another thing that you see with ITB is you see a very diverse cast, not just in terms of the ethnic looks of the folks in the cast, but even the structure. You have very powerful women in the show. You have all that kind of stuff going on in the show.
Yeah, I mean, that is reflective of. I'm on my Instagram live also, and I see one of our writers, Morgan, is on here.
Okay.
She Latoya Morgan. She 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 represents what we are. she's African American, I'm Asian. There's British Miles Miller. There's American Al Goff. We had everybody on from the background was diverse. So it was very important for us to make everything diverse. So we had Italian costume designers. We had Chinese stuntmen, Hong Kong choreographers. We had everybody all working together, and it was great because like when we were on set, it was probably my most proudest moment on being on set and watching everybody speaking so many different languages, but everybody getting along.
Yeah.
Normally it doesn't. Not everybody gets along, but everyone got along. We all loved each other, and that was the saddest thing about the show ending, is that we never got to say a proper goodbye.
Yeah.
Because we finished the season. Obviously, we didn't mean to that last episode to be the season ending
Right.
episode, the season finale. I mean, the show finale. We were planning for it to keep going on, and that's why it is a little bit of a cliffhanger. But we never got to say goodbye to each other, and that was the saddest thing about us losing the show, because it worked so well. We worked so well together. But yeah, we made sure that from top down it was diverse. And so that included when we casted extras. So if you look in the background, it's diverse,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted something that reflected what the world is today, And if we're talking about the future, that is the future. I mean, sorry to say, white supremacists out there, but the future is going to be mixed, man.
Yeah, no, I agree, man, and I think it's just all those elements again are kind of part of the things that makes the show special. But one of the things I've always said about ITB too is it is impressive how they were able to diversify so many different layers of the show, both in front of and behind the camera, and I think that really constitutes the success of the show. But I also think it really constitutes the broad appeal that the show has. When you look at some of the comments that you get, especially on this channel about Into the Badlands, which incidentally enough, those videos, the ITB videos on this channel, still always rank in the top 10, and these are some of the videos I've done years ago. So,
Right.
but even when you're looking at people's the appeal to the show outside of the U.S. is still huge, and some of those folks are still getting like ITB. They're not, it's still emerging.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
some of those areas. So
I'm still getting comments of like, when's season 4 coming out?
Yeah.
Sorry to say, everybody, but there's no season 4. We got canceled. So, and also, it's not. People are also like, why did you cancel it? I'm like, if it was up to me, we'd have 10 seasons, But that's not up to me. It's not up to the producers even. It's up to the studio, And we got canceled by the studio. So sorry about that. But yeah, it's still traveling. It's still moving out there. It's still, people are still seeing it for the first time. And now during this quarantine period, I think a lot of people have been introduced to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it consistently ranks well on Netflix, and even on a lot of other sites when it's ranking with action shows, it ranks really, really well. So I mean, it's a hidden gem, man, for the folks that don't know about it. And I always say, when you see it, you'll love it. You will love it. And my brother is on the live stream now. I remember talking to him about it, and I said, Wayne, you just have to watch the first episode. That's it. I don't even have to say anymore. You watch the first episode, and you will be hooked. That's it. So I have a question though, and some of these questions will start to get into some of the fan questions. So I'm mixing kind of some of those in. One of them you just answered is ITB coming back for a season 4, and you guys have heard it now. There is no plan to come back for a season 4. But one of the questions that was asked by a fan was, what location did you most enjoy filming in?
Well, a specific location, or because we've shot in New Orleans and Ireland.
I think they're talking about a geographic location. So
yeah, Ireland. I think New Orleans was rough. I have to tell you, it was terrible. We've shot in the middle of summer. I'm wearing that leather trench coat, fighting in the heat. It was like 90 degrees humidity. 90 degrees out with 90% humidity. It was terrible. I wanted to quit it sometime doing that. And then moving to Ireland was the complete opposite. We shot through the fall and winter, so it's cold, but I'd rather be cold than like hot. I have to tell you an inside story. That red trench coat in season 1, we had 6 or 7 of them because I would constantly sweat through the leather. So like in one fight scene, in one day, I'd have to change through like 5 different jackets because it was so hot, And then my body restained red because of the red leather. So it was miserable. And then the bugs in New Orleans, it was crazy. The mosquitoes out there, I didn't like that. Ireland was completely opposite end of the spectrum, and the scenery. And you'll see in season 2 and 3, it becomes much more cinematic because we have much wider views that we can film. And plus the topography and geography in Ireland is such varying differences in 20 minutes drive. You know, you could be in the mountains, you could be in the ocean, you could be in a forest, and all those places provide really great looks for the show. I would love to go back to film anything else there too, because I just love that country so much.
It was nice. Now, I one of my favorite scenes too is the sword fight in the rain scene. I always call it the rain scene. Where
Right.
was that done?
So that was in a it was a community center in Louisiana outside of New Orleans that we took over and turned into a soundstage.
Oh
So
wow.
we made a so it was indoors, and it was extreme. So everywhere else we filmed was hot, but that was extremely cold in there because we had all these big lights up on top that would be really hot on top. So they had to turn the air conditioning on really high for the lights up top because we had like lighting guys passing out up above. But down below where we were fighting in the rain, it was freezing. It was so cold.
Uh,
So that was miserable. It was like 7 days of fighting in that for that scene. Um, yeah, but that was on a soundstage, so that made it much more comfortable. And then another fun fact is, you know, all the top shots when you see the ground is like the water's white.
yeah.
A lot of people thought we did that on purpose. That was a mistake. I mean, that was an accident, happy accident.
Oh
It's because
really?
the gravel that we used for the ground was like grayish. So when the water got on it, the water turned like milky. But it was perfect for filming because you know we're dark colored clothes. So when you film that top shot, we pop out of that ground like really well. So it was a nice contrast. So
Yeah.
artistically, it was perfect, but it was a happy accident.
Yeah. No, it's funny because that's part of what makes that scene pop so much. It makes it really
Yeah,
dynamic.
a lot of people thought we were using milk to put that on the ground. I was like, no, we were not. Wait, it was just an accident that happened, and it turned out really great.
Now, can you talk also about the camera work for that? I think I either read or we talked about folks, the cameraman like literally jumping down with people and filming them while they were.
Yeah, so there's two like really complicated shots. One I didn't do, my double did it. Is the multiple flips on top of the car,
Mm,
right? I took like maybe 3 attempts at it, and it was just too dangerous. Like that car is so slippery. And then the double, I think he got it on the 26th take. There's a
wow.
lot of takes, right? And you know, even the double had trouble landing it, right? And then we were going to give up, and then Steven got the last on the 26th shot. We got one landing that landed perfectly, right? And
Wow.
that was it. Um, but yeah, so that was complicated because that required the wire to be on a device that moves the wire. Usually we just have a point and the wire comes up and down and you pull the wire and the person goes up like that, right? But this had to move. So this guy is doing handsprings while the wire is moving along another wire to get onto the thing. So this guy's pulling that as well as people pulling him up so that and timing it for each flip that he makes, right? So I tried it 3 times. Like, nah, I can't do this.
Right.
So let him do it. And then the other shot was, I think it's the very beginning when the fight starts. I turn around, and then there's a shot. You see me down below, and you see the head of the guy here, and the camera's right here. And then he jumps, and the camera goes down, and then
Yeah.
engages me in like 4 or 5 movements. So that guy, that cameraman he was on a wire harness holding the camera, and then the stuntman was on the wire in front of him. So they both leapt at the same time. And another fun fact, that was the guy that actually did the jump was the second guy who did it because the first guy who did it, something happened with the wire and it didn't catch him and he fell.
Oh
Like
no.
he landed on his heels and he had bruised his heels for like 6 weeks or something like that.
Oh.
So he couldn't work. But anyway, so we had to replace him with this other guy and Matt Burberry and just land it perfectly and then continue the action. So yeah, I mean, we're constantly trying to do creative shots like that.
Yeah.
I think our most amazing shot was in season 3 with the widow versus widow fight, where we do a similar thing where I think it's the red widow jumps down off the balcony and then engages black widow,
Mm,
right, black dress widow, and that was again the same thing is that we had the camera on a wire behind her. She jumps, they throw the camera down, and then this other guy, Vidan, is a stunt guy and cinematographer, grabs the camera as it's coming down behind her, and then does a wraparound, and then we have to sew in the image of the other Emily right into it. So it's like that was a really complicated, crazy shot. But yeah, we were constantly doing that to try to up our game every time.
yeah.
Like what could we do that was more interesting or more fun? And these are details that most people don't see, but people that are in the film world will definitely see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, but I think again, like those are the elements that make the show so great. So I have a question for you about Sonny's character because I know initially I think that you at first you were just coming on as was it executive producer? You weren't.
Yeah, and I was just gonna put the fight team together, and that was it.
So who did they have in mind for Sonny if it wasn't going to be you?
Oh, so they wanted. This is complicated because they wanted someone who was Asian, someone who was a good actor, a good fighter, had some name, and was a fluent English speaker. Right, so it's not that many
Yeah.
people, but also we went and started like recast. We sent casting directors out to like martial arts schools, and so you would either find like great actors but had no martial arts experience, or great martial artists with no acting experience, and it just didn't work out. I mean, we literally like searched like hundreds of people, and then it came down to like 4 or 5 people. I can't remember. I know Andy On,
Hmm.
he's a Hong Kong actor. He does a lot of martial arts stuff. A good friend of mine also. He came down to like the wire before the executive producers, the other producers turned to me and are like, Daniel, you got to give this a shot. You got to try. I'm like, I'm like, I don't know. I haven't done because I had stopped doing martial arts action for like 4 or 5 years before that because I had torn an ACL or broken an ankle. Like I had gone through a lot of injury, and at 40, I was 40 years old when we started. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I could actually hold up for like that many seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, part of me is thankful we didn't go 7, 8 seasons because I don't know if my body could have handled it. It's a lot of fighting because, even Donnie Yen, who does these incredible fights, in one movie, he's got maybe 3, 4, 5 fight scenes, right?
right.
In Into the Badlands in one season, in season 3 alone, we had 40 fight scenes. Okay. And I was in like 31 of them or something like that.
Mm-mm.
So that's a lot of fighting to put your body through,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize how difficult it is. And yeah, you're not really getting hit. Sometimes you do or whatever. But the point is like when you have to do that 12, 14 hours a day for months and months on end, it really takes a toll on your body.
No, I believe it. It's funny because I guess that is one of the big differences again between a movie and a series where over and over you're constantly going through the fight choreography and even though no one's really getting punished in terms of major impact, I'm sure there is some impact and to have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
over and over. So,
Yeah, sure, for sure. Especially like with the weapons fighting, that's it's dangerous. A lot of knuckles got chopped up on that. I mean, that's just a daily occurrence, just getting your knuckles swiped. That's why I know like real sword fighting, I might not have a real hand now because
yeah.
definitely there are times where you get grazed across the knuckles by a blade or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, that would constantly happen. Um, but yeah,
It's interesting. Speaking of different weapons, one of my favorite scenes with you and the widow is the scene in the dungeon where you guys are both going after MK. I think at that point MK is locked up, and she
is this
goes.
season one?
I think this is season one.
Yeah, that was like one of the worst fights ever. I'll tell you why in a minute. But go on.
Well, I loved it because she goes through. We kind of see like all of these classic weapons, and she
Yeah, yeah.
goes through so many of them. And I think that at one of them, at one point, she goes through one of my favorite just weapons in all of martial arts, which I believe she uses the twin hooks at one point. Um,
Yes, yeah.
so, can you just talk a little bit about? Or
The,
it looks like you're about to talk
so
about that.
the concept of that fight was, in classic Chinese kung fu, there's 18 classical weapons, and we wanted to try to get through them. I don't think we got through all of them, but we got through a lot of them there. And so we wanted to, in one fight scene, show all those weapons in one thing. We just thought that would be a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
And so that's a classic wuxia element. Again, there's something where we're giving a nugget to those people, Um, and the reason why that fight was so miserable is because that place that we were filming in was like an old wartime barracks, right? Or an armory or something like that. I forgot the name of the place, but it was underground and there was no ventilation and it was hot as hell because it was again summer in New Orleans. And then we had those torches burning in there, right? And those torches, they put kerosene on them and light them, so they just emit this black stuff. So like everybody's nostrils cut like black in their
yeah.
noses, and all the crew wearing masks, like everyone's wearing masks now, except for us, the actors, because we can't wear masks, right? So I think we were in that hole for like 5 days, and man,
Wow.
it was miserable. Then that was also near the end of the shoot, so it was really tiring, and everyone was completely exhausted. But yeah, it was fun. I really liked doing that one because we went through all these different weapons, and it was the kind of first time you saw Sunny use all those weapons as well as
Yeah,
the Widow.
yeah, yeah. That was very cool. And I think at one point, Sonny use the? I know he used the shield. Did he also use the sword
Oh,
as well?
someone said Fort Macomb. That was the name of the place. That's the real
Okay,
location.
okay. Yeah, it was amazing. That was one of my favorite scenes as well. Again, just because we got to see the use of all those different weapons, and I always like to see you two go at it, which is interesting when I look at the
Yeah,
progression of your relationship and even the fight dynamic with you and her. When we get to season three, she becomes kind of more poised, more I guess controlled, and in that market fight scene, you can almost see it. Like she's
right.
elevated. That was a really fun scene to watch too.
Yeah, because we want it, we want the fights to tell you something about the character. They're not just a fight for a fight's sake, right? And I hate watching shows where, like, there's some, let's not even say action. Let's say a show like CSI where, like, they witness this crazy murder, and then the next episode they're the same people, and then
Yeah,
the same people every episode. We
yeah,
wanted, like, each fight to change the character in a way a drama scene would, right? If you see in a drama scene, this character, his father dies in the scene, it affects how you look at him throughout the rest of the film, right? Of course. So the same thing with a fight. The fight doesn't just happen. A fight changes the person. So in that progression you're talking about is like the way me and Widow fought the first time is very different than the way we fought in the marketplace.
right,
In some way, and when you highlighted a really good point, we wanted to show that she evolved, she changed. She's not necessarily the ruthless killer that she was in the first one, and that Sonny also has changed a little bit, and that he can't let go of his anger towards her. And
yeah,
so we wanted to represent that in the fight. And so you see me like grimacing and fighting and smashing things up, where she's just trying to keep the peace.
yeah, yeah. And that's an interesting thing again about the character development that makes the show so good too. I always felt like the characters were developed in such a way that nobody, even Quinn, nobody tilted towards just completely evil, even though Quinn was good and nuts. I'm not saying that he wasn't. I mean, he was really, but they all kind of had, they did a good job of writing the characters in such a way that even when they seemed like they were at their worst, they all had an edge, to me anyway, of a bit of a redeeming quality to them. They were complex. They weren't just straight,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
they were human beings. They're human beings, and we're trying to make them portray them as human beings, right? And I think that's also a testament to the actors, how good they were, like Marton playing Quinn, Orla, playing Miss Brady, all that stuff. There's so many. Um, we just really wanted to make them three-dimensional characters that anybody could get behind. So, there are lots of people that were fans of Quinn, just fans of Quinn. They didn't like Sonny. There's lots of people that are fans of the Widow. And I really like that about this show, is that it's not just about one character. It's about all this network of characters that we're creating for different audience members to latch onto and like. And it's a lot like, have you seen the Tiger King Netflix documentary?
I have. I
Like, that
have.
guy he's not a great human being, but you have empathy for him because he's a human too. He wants to be successful. He has these desires that we all have. He just goes about it in a really fucked up way, right?
Yeah.
But he's a human, right? So you can't really like blame him for the things he did, but then at the same time he did do some terrible things. So you see him as a human being, and so that's why I think so many people have empathy for that guy, Joe Exotic, than him just being a villain.
Joe Exotic. No, that's a good point because that show is a good example of that. Almost everybody in that show gives you something to dislike about them. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but
completely.
but at the same time, you feel for them and in certain instances, in certain ways. So I think Into the Badlands does a really good job of that. Give me 1 second here, Daniel. I'm going to try and transition and really tackle some of our direct questions from
Okay.
some of the fans. I just got to pull it up on YouTube. So.
So,
Uh,
someone's asking if I think Carol killed her husband. Hell yeah, she killed her
If
husband.
if oh, you think she did? You think she fed him to the tiger?
Fed into the Tigers for sure.
Only thing I it's interesting you say that because I do think that the folks who made a case for that, I mean, the tiger wouldn't have there would have been bones or something. I don't know if she buried the bones or I don't know. It seems to me they would have
Yeah,
found something.
I don't know, but one thing that they did say in the very beginning of the documentary, they said like wild animal people, they're all crazy, and it's true. They're all those people. Everyone in that documentary is nuts.
Yeah, no, Tiger King was really good. It's interesting because I we didn't talk about this we were supposed to talk about it on the last stream, but I was going to talk about one of my favorite streaming platforms, which I think is Netflix. It's probably my favorite, even over Disney
Sure,
Plus, just
sure.
because of the diversity of programming. You're getting stuff from all over the world. But anyway, I digress. So
Okay.
that was pretty good. All right, so a few questions. The first one I definitely want to get to is James Fry. He has a question for you. He definitely wanted you to wish him a happy birthday. It is his birthday
Happy birthday,
today.
James. How old is James?
I don't know how old James is. That's a
Okay,
good
we'll keep
question.
it a secret. But happy birthday, brother.
So yeah, I'm now and I'm trying to. I just saw James's question because I'm scrolling here. Like I said, there's a ton of questions. There's this question. Okay, you know what? You might have already answered this question. Oh no, he wanted to know. Um, what does it say here? It says. Oh, he wanted to know how much you miss filming Into the Badlands. Essentially, you've asked that question.
Yeah,
So
I miss it a lot. I miss it a lot. I miss the people we worked with. Like, you know, I've been in this business for 22 years, and usually when you work on a project, it's like summer camp. You have your fun, and then you go off and you go to another life, or you go to another summer camp, right? But this is one of the ones that I just want to keep going back to. And again, this is one of my first. This is my first time in television, and when I went into it, I was a little apprehensive because I've never played a character, one character for that long, and I thought I would be bored with it. But I actually really had fun playing Sonny because he had so many different arcs through each season. But then also the other thing was the Badlands family we created behind the scenes, which none of you guys ever got to saw. But we were a really tight group of people, and I miss that tremendously.
well, it's interesting you say that because when we interviewed Sherman Augustus, he said the same thing. He said that at least at that point in time, he had never had an experience like that on set where everybody got along. And he said he told me, he said, because I'll tell you, brother, it's not always like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, for
so,
sure.
but
Even
he
on a
said,
person in a movie with just two people, they cannot get along and it can be terrible. But this was great. We all got along. Crew, actors, everybody. We were all one whole. So it was great.
yeah, that's what he said. So, and again, I think that's probably a testament to how well the show did because I think those things are kind of like unhidden gems. I think that make things just that much better as well. Even though you guys are all professionals, but it's always nice when folks can get along on set.
Right.
Um, all right, so let's get to some fan questions here. And I'm just going to kind of go through a few of them. You might be able to see them as well, but I'm going to read them as well, just so the folks can hear them also. Um, all right. This one comes from Garth. Garth is on right now. Well, you answered this. Will there be a new season of Into the Badlands, and what network will pick it up? It sounds like that's not likely to happen at this point. Although I do know
Don't
that.
give up. It may happen, but for as far as we know, there is no more.
Now, I wanted to ask you though, because I do know that I think I read that Al and Miles had a couple of different things that they were thinking about, and we may have talked about this too, where they were also looking to do maybe a spinoff
Yeah.
of Into the Badlands. Is that still something that might happen, or?
Yeah, that's what we were leading into with the season finale, right? With that kind of weird cliffhanger season finale, is that we were going to spin it off into a different kind of show, um, and actually, it was going to focus on baby Henry and him being a young adult, you know. So and then there's the gun gets found, right?
Yeah,
That's at the end. So there was issues of that we're going to also talk about.
yeah,
Um, um, and it was actually a lot like there's a Hong Kong movie, and it's actually there's a wuxia movie called Dragon Inn, and then there was a movie that Chow Yun Fat did later called Peace Hotel, which is like a cowboy version of the wuxia version.
hmm
But basically, Dragon Inn is this place where like any martial hero could come in there and they'd be safe. It was like a safe house, right? And so we were going to do some kind of concept like that, where Sonny was in charge of this area that maybe it was a property, small property, acre or two, where people could come and they can have freedom there, but you can't fight there. You can't
right.
fight there. You can't settle any scores there, but you can have sovereignty there, right? And you'd be safe. So the idea was going to be something like that. Um, and it would have been. I was excited about it, but it didn't happen. So
Well, it seems pretty cool, and that's an interesting way too, also to introduce the gun into the show. And I will tell you that we've had many back and forth discussions on this channel whether or not we wanted to see a gun or whether or not we didn't want to see a
Right.
gun and how that would work with the bladed weaponry. So there's a whole bunch of back and forth about that. But
All I can say is that Hong Kong movies are not only famous for kung fu, we're also famous for gung fu as well. So, the John Woo stuff. So
yeah.
it could have been really interesting. I think it could have been really interesting.
Now I agree with you. It's funny because we brought that was one of the things that was brought up too. Like we've seen guns and martial arts mixed before in America. We've seen them in movies like
Right.
in all kinds of movies. And John Wick, and there was another one before that. I can't remember the name of it. Somebody, if somebody in the chat remembers the name of the movie with Christian Bale, man, I can't remember the movie, but there's a whole bunch of gun fu in that. Somebody in the chat will put
Huh.
that up. But so
Okay.
we've seen it before, so it could work. It definitely could work.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been interesting. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if we would have gone there, but there's just the whole idea of introducing a gun and what that meant to the land there. It's an interesting topic, especially, well, before the coronavirus, that was a very important topic for me is gun violence happening in America,
yeah,
and being able to hit that topic. I mean, that was the other thing about the show is that we were able to hint at things that are happening in our society right now, which I think all good sci-fi should do.
right.
We didn't hit it heavy-handed, but we definitely, had elements in there for people to contemplate. Let's say, like we saw the wall, right, in season 2, there was a wall, right, and there's and the reason why the world went down. We wanted people to contemplate that, why the world changed and ended up in the Badlands, like all those kind of things, which are very important topics in any kind of good sci-fi. We had those. We put those little Easter eggs in the show.
Yeah, it's and Into the Badlands did a really good job of that too, really tackling relevant topics, but weaving it into the story so well that it didn't feel preachy, but you still understood the different elements that were coming across. Did a really good job with that also. And
Yeah.
incidentally, they're saying in the chat the name of that movie is Equilibrium. So
Yes,
um,
yes, yes, yes. Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Right.
So, all right, I'm scrolling through a lot of comments here, man. A lot of these questions you've answered already. There's a whole bunch of comments that are as simple as "bring back the Badlands." So, so you're getting a lot of those. There's one comment by Marcus. Oh, I think Marcus is on right now, and some people were talking about an Into the Badlands movie. Marcus was not really happy about an Into the Badlands movie, and his reason for that is how do you do an ITB movie where you have a show that has so much lore? How can you do at least a singular movie and have it really kind of respect all that goes into the Badlands or into making the show? I suppose maybe you could do it through multiple movies. Right now, Hollywood's we've got some movies that are on some franchises that are on like their seventh film. Um, but is that anything that might happen? Might there be an Into the Badlands movie? Might that be possible?
I mean, it's all possible. I mean, again, you're saying, it is challenging to try to compress such a vast storyline into one, 2 hour or an hour and a half show. I mean, movie. But it definitely could be possible. Again, I don't have any control on that at the moment, so that's not something for me to decide. But I think anything's possible if there's enough clicks on Netflix, it might revive the possibility of doing something like that.
I gotcha. So here's an interesting question about guns.
Hmm.
So this is what the question says, and this is by Zephyr BWSD, and he asked the question: if guns were introduced in the final, I guess I should say final episode, does that mean that Dark Ones can focus their power into their guns to do like chi bullets? And I'm sure you know that there's been a whole bunch of discussion about the Dark Gift, what it can do, what it can't do.
Right.
So that's the
I mean,
question.
essentially, they wouldn't even need guns really, because they could fire off projectiles that kill people anyway.
Yeah.
Whether they can affect other guns, I'm not sure. We never really spoke about that.
We
So,
I was gonna say
so I don't know.
so
Good.
an interesting notion though when you mention that is because I'm still trying to figure out what happened when the master comes in and they're shooting the crossbows and she does something to stop those
Yeah.
bolts.
Right.
So
Right.
it seems like they could have the ability to affect projectiles and things like that. So
Sure. I mean, essentially, the dark power is like a superpower. So, in some ways, I mean, yeah, that they would be immune to that kind of stuff. If this sword can't get into them, maybe a bullet can't get into them either. So they might be immune to it. Um, but yeah, again, this is lore that we never got a chance to discuss.
So a follow up question too is, and I don't know if you guys ever got a chance to discuss it, but were there different types of gifts for a while? I don't know if you, I know in some of the chats online there was a talk of a light gift, kind of an opposite of the dark gift, and some people speculate that that's what you had when you kind of like during your final scene. So I don't know if you can talk about that idea. Is that so?
Yeah, we were hinting at it. We didn't get to explore it completely because if you notice, like some people had a gold glint in their eyes versus the black eyes, right?
Right.
And so we're trying to differentiate. Um, I wouldn't necessarily light and dark, but maybe a morally better use of the dark power versus using it for bad reasons or for self-serving reasons. Um, yeah, possibly. Again, this is stuff that we talked about briefly, but didn't get into it deep enough.
I gotcha. So I have a question here. This is a super chat. Thank you, Charles, for the super chat. And he asks, Daniel, would you have liked to have worked with Donnie Yen? I don't know if you saw the video, Daniel, but we did a video a long time ago on the channel of different folks that we'd like to see. If not join the show, at least stop by the show, and that was one of the names that crossed the list. So
Uh, So yeah, I've known Donnie for a long time, and we see each other at events all the time. We always say, "Hey, when are we going to work together?" We worked on a weird movie a long time ago that neither of us were the star in, called Twins FX Two. I don't recommend it, but we didn't fight each other in it, nor were we in the same scenes together. We just run across each other every once in a while on set. Um,
okay.
but yeah, we never really got a chance to work with each other, and we're both wushu guys. We both practice wushu in the States. His mom, I remember competing in tournaments where his mom was the judge, Bosun Mark. She was essential to bringing wushu to America. She brought it to here, before, like in the '60s or something like that,
Oh wow.
very early on. And so, yeah, she's super famous in the martial arts community here in the U.S. And so I knew about Donnie before I even met him because of that. And then he had gone to Hong Kong and became a movie star way before I did. And so he kind of blazed the way. And then when I got there, I met him quickly. Second year I was there or something like that. And then we've always talked about working together. We just never have had the chance. I'd love to do it though at some point.
Yeah, we're big fans of Donnie as well. So that'd be cool to see you guys do something. I actually heard.
Donnie's incredible. He's so fast and powerful. His speed is incredible.
I believe it. I believe it. I saw an interesting interview with he and Tyson after they did their Ip Man movie together, and they were kind of talking about each other's, I guess, for lack of a better word, fighting prowess and things like that. So
Right.
it's interesting because both of those guys, because Tyson, even with where he is right now, I'm sure he could probably still knock out a gorilla. So
I saw some footage of him recently, like showing somebody on set just his hooks,
mhm.
right? And he was like a hook, duck, under hook. It was so fast still, right? I would never want to be on the end of one of those punches. No way.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. All right, here's our next question. My question, this is from the General VV. My question is, if Into the Badlands would have continued, would it stay in the borders of the United States or would it go further into places like Europe, Brazil, Russia, Japan, and Australia, places like that? Um, and show us how the world and show us how the world would have changed there. I think I'm not sure if I'm right.
That's something I get what he's getting at. As something that would be really well explored through like a graphic novel or something like that, but it's not possible to do in a show because we were already trying to make the show less expensive, and by traveling to different places around the world, that just makes it way more expensive, right? To be able to stay in one location and film in just one location makes the show a lot cheaper, and so yeah, we always talk about that in film and TV shows. Oh, we're going to go this country and go this country and go this country. And we work out the budget. We're like, nah, that's not going to happen.
I know.
So yeah, I think it's something. for thematically, I think it's really great to kind of try and see what's happening in other parts of the world, while this dystopia is happening in the United States. But yeah, not possible in the show, I don't think.
Man, that's interesting because I didn't even think about that. I guess it would be costly to travel to all those different places and to shoot and do
Oh
things like
yeah,
that. So,
very.
okay, here's another one from Three Deputy. Well, the first part of the comment is just how excited he is to be able to do something like this. And the next question, oh, this is actually more just a comment. I'll just read it to you. It says, "Oh man, oh man, I just got the notification for this video and I'm so excited for tonight, man. I'm so happy you're getting the opportunity to do this again." Oh, it's not a question for you. Actually, it's for me. Sorry, this is not my interview. It's yours. Let's move on to the next one. Sorry, Daniel. Um, um, oh, so this is a question that a toxic viewer asked, and it says, "How did you react to the news about AMC canceling the show?" You kind of touched on that. So
Yeah, we talked about it one time before, but yeah, obviously upset. I mean, but we saw the writing on the wall way before you guys did,
yeah,
probably, because you know how it works is like you finish a season and then you have some time off and then you go back into the next season, right? And usually at some point they'll tell you that you've been greenlit for the next season. So you never know while you're filming the current season whether you have a next season. It's just never the case in TV, right? And so you could be promised that all the time, but until you get the official green light, you never know if you're going back, right? And so when we finished season 3, we were under the impression that we were going back, right? And then it didn't happen. But so during the break, we had an exceptionally long break in between, because we split season 3 into 2 seasons, right? So as the first part of season 3 started airing, we still hadn't heard. And by that time, I was like, and then there was a regime change at AMC. So the head in charge left, and then we got a new person on. And usually when that happens, like everything gets reshuffled. So,
mm,
but when I heard about that, I was like, oh, I think we're on the chopping block, you know.
yeah,
And so when we finally got the news, I pretty much guessed that that was going to happen. We didn't get the news until like April or something, like 8 months after we'd finished filming um, season 3, and I think we're just about to start the second half of the season 3, the last 8 episodes. So we didn't find out till then, and so it was a slow. So it wasn't like, oh damn, I didn't find out one time. It was like this slow burn, and
yeah.
then you realize like the rope that was holding you up burnt and disconnected, and you fell
And
down
you're
the cliff.
falling. I can't
That's what it
imagine.
felt like.
I can't imagine what that must be like though for folks that are doing shows, and if you're waiting each season to know if there's going to be another season, I think that would just rack my nerves,
Well,
man.
yeah, and also for like our younger actors who like need to make a living. Luckily I've had 20 something years of a previous career that I've saved up some money where I wasn't waiting for the next project,
Right.
to pay the bills, right? And so yeah, it's hard. It's hard for those people that are expecting a paycheck, and continue on doing a really good show they love, to just leave them hanging there like that. But that's unfortunately the way the business goes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's what I've heard. That's just kind of the way of things. But man, that's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah.
So Kai Jackson asked, "What was your favorite scene to shoot?" I'm sure this is a hard question to answer.
Wow. There's so many. I mean, I think one of my favorite drama scenes was basically the little bit at the end of season 2 where I see Belle again, and then we abruptly go into the fight, and then she dies, and then that bit dramatically, that was probably the most dramatic point for Sunny, and it caused this whole change for season 3. Um, and then my favorite fight, gosh, there, there's so many, man. I think the most memorable for me, and probably isn't a lot for a lot of other people, but it's that warehouse fight in season 1
Yeah,
where I fight 40 dudes.
yeah,
Because we still honestly speaking, we hadn't really figured out what we were doing yet. We were just like trying our best to just make it awesome, right? And so that was a crazy scene because I mean, there was like 40 people in that scene that one guy's fighting, right? And we're doing all kinds of cool stuff. So that set the precedent in terms of like camera work, how the team gelled together with the choreography and the cameraman and all that stuff, and how we are going to film that and how we're going to move forward. Um, and it was one of the earliest ones that we shot. The first fight we shot was the first fight you ever see, which is the forest fight in season one,
Yeah,
the first
that was
episode,
awesome.
right? But that warehouse fight was not long after, and that was showing how complex we can be and how complicated it can be and how big it can be, but also show how cool it is as well. So that one was memorable to me. The rain fight also just because we did a lot of cool tricks in that as well. Um, and then I mean the later, there's so many. It's hard to say. Season three, there was great fights like the widow versus widow fight. That was amazing. Um, so much. There's so much. Hard to say.
So another question. This is a follow-up fight question, but this one is beyond just ITB. And Korthos asks, out of all of your movies where you've done fight scenes, do you have a favorite? If you could just pick one, beyond ITB, but the other stuff you've done as well.
Yeah, honestly speaking, like I think my best fights have been in ITV and
Okay.
Into the Badlands, because a lot of people in America think my whole career has been martial arts movies and stuff, right? When in fact it's only been like maybe 2% of what I've done. I've done almost 70 movies in 20 something years, right? And just a handful of them were martial arts movies. So I think the best martial arts I've done, I think I got to a point doing Badlands where like I used to get really nervous about remembering choreography,
Mm-hmm.
but we got to the point in it's like a jazz musician, right? Like in order to freestyle, you got to have your basics down real good. Like when you go into solo, you got to have your solid foundation, right? And so I couldn't freestyle very well. Let's put it in those terms. I couldn't freestyle very well until we started doing Badlands because I have to say, when we're shooting Badlands, like a lot of people think, oh, we choreographed and we practiced for a month and then went into film. No, it didn't go like that. It was a TV schedule. So we would get to set that day and figure out what we're doing right at that moment. So like this shot is going to be this series of like 15 moves, right? And we're going to shoot that and then move on. We're going to just keep on going in a linear fashion throughout the fight. Sometimes we jump back and forth, but we would literally just see it. We would practice a few times and we go shoot that shit, right? And
Wow.
it was crazy. It was kind of crazy to do it that way. But and I think a lot of the other actors had a lot of trouble with that. Like I think Emily, who and had no martial arts experience in her life before, had a big problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but everyone got used to it. And so, like for me, by season three, I was just flowing through all those fight scenes. Like I would see the stunt team do the fight once,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd rehearse it like 3 or 4 times, and then we go shoot it, and we get that down to like 20 minutes that we could do a section, memorize it, and go shoot it and film it, and then move on, keep moving on. And I just really like doing that way. And if you ask me to like go back, what were the other moves? I can't remember them now because it would just go in and out. You could just
Yeah.
do it and get it out. It's just like a jazz a solo. It's something you did in the moment, and then you move on, you keep going. And so I'm really happy that I got to that point in my martial arts skills that I was able to just not think and just have it free flow. You know.
Well, there goes my hopes if ever I had any being on the show because I mean even with the martial arts training I've had, it's funny because you have those guys that are in class, you show them something once and then they got it. I'm that guy that's like I need to see this like 20 more times before I can get this.
Right.
So
Or you could have been a clipper or somebody like that that gets
exactly,
you
exactly.
know a few hits here and there. But that, I mean, it was hard for the stuntmen involved because let's say there's one person like me fighting like let's say 10 people at once, right? All those guys, their timing has to be perfect. If one of those guys off, we got to do it all over again, you
Yeah,
know. And so those guys, even though they're just doing one reaction or two reactions or whatever, they're nervous because they're trying to make sure that they're coming in at the right moment
yeah.
and not screwing it up for everybody else. It's hard. And that's another thing I have to say. We had the best stunt team possible. We handpicked these guys and girls, and they were incredible. And they were so happy to be on the show because they're all martial artists that became stunt people,
Hmm.
and in their normal daily line of work, they don't get to do fighting like that. They do
Right,
stunts. They fall off things, they get punched or whatever. They do a couple cool sequences here and there, but they're not doing like incredible fights every single day.
right.
And so, even though it was really physically difficult and challenging for them, I think they all loved it, and all of them have expressed that this has been their favorite job ever. So those guys busted their asses for the show, and they deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they had a lot of fun because it looks like because we've seen some of the behind the scenes footage too, where you guys have kind of given us a peek behind the camera, and it looks like you guys
Right.
are really enjoying yourselves. But the fight camp, man, the fight camp looks brutal, brother.
Yeah, yeah. I ran the fight camp most of the time, I think. Um, and it was 5 weeks before we started filming. That was just to get everybody into shape. So we people tried to negotiate. Can we do it in 2 or 3 weeks? And I'm like, nah, we got to do 5 weeks because it takes 2 weeks for your body to just get acclimated to what you're doing, the
Right.
shock of like that much physical activity, and
Right.
then third, fourth week get you used to the flow of how things going. Um, and so we would work out for like from 9 till 3 every day, 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And then 3 to 6 would we break off, we'd send the actors home. And then the stunt people and the choreographers and us, we would talk about the fights up ahead or what we needed, and we work things out. And then maybe do some simple choreography and preparation during that 3 hour thing. So it was like, a good 10-hour days of training for the actors, at least 6 to 8 hours a day. And that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, pro athletes don't even do that every day.
Yeah, it looked brutal, but it's interesting though because like all of those guys looked good when you saw them at fight camps. Emily, Aramis, but I think you said the Aramis is pretty athletic just in and of
He was
himself.
really athletic. He just wasn't flexible to begin with, and we worked on that. He's still not totally flexible, but that was something that was easier to work on. But he had the natural athletic ability. So, and he was also always game for anything. Like he looked at everything as a physical challenge, and he wanted to take it. Allie also. Allie really loved that stuff, and she just every time we showed her some cool move, she would jump into it and try and learn it.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's funny. Speaking of Ali, I wondered with her. Now she looks like she was just flexible anyway. Just looking at some of her, just her movement mechanics. And
Yeah,
I could be
yeah,
wrong about that,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah.
So, well, man, I'm gonna give you a few more questions. I'm not gonna hold you too much longer. So we'll do maybe three more questions.
Sure,
A lot of them you have answered actually already. Let's see what we
sure.
what we have that's not a repeat. Um, somebody's asking me in the chat, did I do kung fu? Somebody asked me that. Yeah, I did. I actually got a black belt. Dang near killed me too. So
I know
yeah.
you. One of the first comments I mean, first YouTube episodes that you did, I knew you had done martial arts because you were talking about our hand positions
Oh
in
yeah.
the poster or whatever,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, this guy's done kung fu before for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Back when I was a young lad.
Hey, I don't even have a black belt. The school I learned at, we didn't have belt system, so there, I don't even have a black belt.
It's
Got no belt.
interesting. Well, I mean my school was here in the states, but it's interesting because our system was funny because I guess in China they don't have belt systems, so
Kung fu, there's no belt system. Yeah.
right. So we actually moved when we started. You started with a black sash and you moved from black to white in our
Mm-hmm.
system. It was a tension
Mm-hmm.
pi system. So and it was really funny because when we would like you'd leave the school and people would see the belt around your waist, they're like, oh, he's a black belt, and you're like, I started yesterday. So but yeah, that's how it was. The belts were black and then
But
they moved.
honestly speaking, belts don't mean really anything to me because I've seen black belts that are not good at
Yeah.
all, and then I've seen lower belts that are really good. So
Yep.
it just depends on the person.
Now you're absolutely right. It's an interesting thing that you say that because when I've had discussions about martial arts in other areas, and to me, like the silliest conversation you can have is about the superiority of a martial art. And I have this conversation a lot with a lot of my buddies that are jujitsu practitioners because
Mhm.
everybody that is the supreme martial art. And I've always said it really is so much more about the practitioner than it is necessarily the system. Because if you're
Oh,
really good
absolutely.
at what you go ahead.
No, absolutely. I'm just agreeing with you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say if you're really good at whatever you practice and the guy in front of you is not, then he's gonna be in trouble or she's gonna be in trouble. So, you know.
Yep. Yep.
Alrighty. Um let's do one from Snazzy Doo. And what does he say? Oh well, this man. Most of these comments are just like they can't believe the show has ended, and they're all just like, "We need you to bring the show back."
Yeah. I get those daily. I get those daily on my social media. Everyone's like, "Bring the show back." Why did you cancel it? All this kind of like, I didn't cancel. I didn't cancel it. It wasn't me. I wouldn't have done it. Um, but yeah, again, this is the way the entertainment business works. You're dependent on the studio. They're your benefactor, and if they cut if they cut the ties, then you can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the way it
I
is.
mean, yeah, the budgets are just too crazy to try to finance it independently. It's too much.
Yeah, it's interesting though too. I still wonder. I don't know. I mean, I get the fact that if it was super expensive, then that may have been part of what happened here. I'm still salty at AMC. I mean, and I say this unapologetically, and I still feel like they didn't promote the show like they should have.
Yeah,
Um,
I
um,
agree.
and that's just yeah, it's a shame. And no slight fans out there that love The Walking Dead, but I really feel like they hitched their wagon to The Walking Dead, which that's all I'll say about that, Daniel.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
um, but anyway, yeah. So I don't know, man. It would still be great if someone picked it up. Like I have no idea how expensive, for example, The Expanse is, the sci-fi show on Prime, but Prime picked it up, and The Expanse is doing
Hmm.
really well. So
Hmm.
I feel like, man. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand it. It's I don't know. So
Yeah, yeah. It's difficult. I don't. Neither do I. But I sometimes think we just came too early.
yeah,
Sometimes, that happens with a lot of shows that or a lot of art or a lot of things, a lot of movies are
yeah.
like that. Like Apocalypse Now didn't get popularity until like a year or two after it released. So things like that happen. Um, and maybe we might be one of those shows that like 10 years from now, people talk about it being a cult classic or whatever.
That's what I think is
So
gonna happen.
I just got to accept it as that. If we're not going to ever have another season of it, then I just got to accept it as that we were too early, and people weren't ready for us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the upside is it's I know folks that are on the show have gone on to do other things. I know the last time I spoke to Sherman, he had some stuff in the pipelines. I think Sarah is going to be in the new Penny Dreadful remake.
Yep.
I think I saw her on there. I know that Orla was in the
Oliver
first.
Stark. Oliver Stark's doing really well on his show.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yep.
Orla was in the first season of Picard. So
Yep.
yeah, so folks
Yeah.
are.
So a lot of people are doing really well. Martin's doing a show in New Zealand right now, a movie right now in New Zealand, or he was before the coronavirus hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people got a lot of work from this. Emily won Cons. Emily Beecham won Best Actress in Cons.
Oh, really?
For the Little Joe. Yeah, she won over was it last summer.
Oh,
That's a
wow.
huge that's a huge thing to win. That's like the pinnacle of. I would value that higher than an Oscar. I'll tell you that. The
Wow.
Cons award, just because that's a real film award.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, so yeah, she won for this movie Little Joe that she did. So yeah, a lot of people have gone on to do incredible stuff. So
Although I do
we'll
want to say,
see.
if one thing I could see with ITB that I would want to see is I would want to see um, Cressa to come back because I want her to get it. Like I'm
Oh, yeah.
so mad, Daniel, that she got away, that she did
Mm.
not get what was coming to her.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, uh,
So yeah, Lorraine Toussaint, I love her. She's great. It was funny. I was working on that movie Reminiscence in New Orleans, and I walk into my hotel after a long day at work. I walk in, I see someone in front of me with big hair, right? And I'm like, I could get this vibe, but I wasn't sure. So I
mhm.
walked up and like, I don't ever do this, but I kind of walked up beside her and I kind of snuck a peek, and then she side eyed me, and it was Lorraine. It was
Oh,
her,
really?
and we were both like, what are you doing here? And she was working on something. I was working on something. We were staying in the same hotel. We gave each other a big hug. I miss her a lot.
Yeah.
She was great on the show. She was really great. She added a lot of gravitas to fill her and Babu filled the gravitas that Martin left us with after he left the show.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree with that. They were excellent, and I will tell you I'm surprised and very satisfied because when Quinn left, I was like, man, I don't know who's going to be able to fill that void, but
yep,
it
yep,
was in a different way, but they did a really good job of
hmm,
coming in and filling that space. So
yeah, yeah. I miss them too, man. So many people. You're reminding me of all these people I miss.
So yeah, and I follow Nick Frost on Instagram. Was always putting up something crazy on Instagram. So I
Yeah,
love Nick Frost.
his quarantine post.
Yeah, he's something. But
Yeah.
all right,
That
man.
actually, I'm gonna miss that the most. Our chemistry that we had. I mean, I've worked, in this business for 20 something years. I know when two actors have really good chemistry. And we had this really kind of good straight man, funny guy
Yeah, yeah,
thing going on.
yeah,
And we've talked about trying to do something else together, a movie or something to kind of recreate that chemistry that we had.
yeah. No, you guys were excellent together, and I felt like he was the perfect addition to the show to provide that comic relief. He was the perfect kind of counterbalance to Sonny as well. But even he, for a while, had a good level of mystique about him. You
Mm-hmm.
always like he seemed kind of like he seemed a little bit like a goofball, but at the same time, you're like, wait a minute, this guy is smarter than he appears. He knows more of
Yeah.
what's going on than you know. So
Yeah, he's a kind of classic con man type of character. It's like, can you ever trust him?
right,
Uh, but yeah, that was something after season one that was like we talked about. It was like we need to inject some comedy into the show because it's too serious. Like we need moments of a reprise where we can just like get out of that craziness for a second and just hear something funny, or see something funny. And Baji was that character.
yeah, no, he was excellent. I mean, Nick Frost was really it was perfect for that role. I mean, and the timing, you're right. The chemistry between you guys was amazing. So it'd be awesome if we could see you guys do something else
Oh yeah,
on
and
Stunt.
by the way, that homeboy can move. He can move.
Oh,
You know,
really?
I saw him kicking a heavy bag the first day we were training. And I was like, I don't want to be on the end of one of those kicks, like a real tie kick right into the bag. I
Yeah,
was like, nah, I don't want to mess with that. But yeah, he can move. That guy can move. You've seen Cuban Fury. He dances so well. And if you have a dancing background, if you know how to dance at all, you can do martial arts choreography easily. You
yeah,
know. Um, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, and I'll wrap this up. I'll ask you this last question because I wanted to ask about Dean, who I wish we would have seen more of him in the show
Oh,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I was so mad when I saw that when we got the scripts that he was dying because I was
yeah,
like, the moment I saw him on our monitor, I was like, this kid is gonna be a star. I was like, this kid's gonna be a star because he has this like James Dean quality to him.
yeah,
Like I don't give a shit quality, but it's just really magnetic personality.
yeah,
Um, but then also he's a really good mover. Like he did all 90% of his fighting, all that stuff. Very well coordinated because he did a bunch of dance movies and he's a good dancer as well. So yeah, and seeing him in 1917, it was like I was so happy for him in that.
yeah. He was actually great in that too. It's interesting too because I noticed that about when I saw him that the scene that he has with Louis Tan is um is amazing.
Mm,
That scene. It is.
yeah,
I didn't mispronounce Louis's name, did I? Did I get that
Lewis,
right?
no, Lewis Dan, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's
You're talking about the fight scene where Lewis comes in on their
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was great.
When they enter into yeah, that scene was amazing. And when watching him move on that scene, I was like, good grief! Like this guy, if he doesn't have some kind of martial arts background, he has some kind of movement background because he executed that very well.
Yeah, we shouldn't have killed him. Definitely shouldn't have killed him because he. I don't know. I don't know. It was predestined in the character and the way he was written, but
Yeah,
I was like, ow, Miles, like, why are you getting rid of this guy? Like, we need him. We need to keep him on.
yeah, he is awesome. He and oh, I can't remember her name. Who was his counterpart?
LRA.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
she was really good too. And that
yeah.
scene they had at the checkpoint with the two of them, where jeez, you know what I'm talking about. It's at the gate. They're at the gate, and they both
Yeah. For their first fight scene, right when they're
yeah.
fighting in tandem. Yeah,
That was phenomenal.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was
They were great in that. They were amazing in that. And that was one of the first things we shot for season three. And I was not working that day. I went down to the set just to see how it would go, and I saw Dean move, and I was like, oh damn, he's good. He's
yeah,
really good.
yeah, yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us, and you gave us
Sure.
a
I
nice.
just wanna I just wanna say one thing, PSA about this coronavirus thing. I know you posted something about telling all your African American brothers and sisters out there to take this seriously and do something about it. Not let this coronavirus get them. The other thing I want to talk about also is that the sort of racial hate crimes that are happening to the Asian Americans because they're being blamed for bringing this coronavirus in. Um, we got to stand up against that. That's not acceptable because we're all Americans here. This is not a racial problem. This is a human problem. The coronavirus is a global human pandemic, and we all need to get together and fight this together instead of all of us, you know, fighting each other divided. We need to fight this one thing. It's a waste of energy to hate on other people. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree with that 110%. And it's really interesting to hear you share that, because this is one thing that really, in a very real way, on a global scale, we are all fighting this together. Everybody.
The whole world is in this
Right,
together. So why be separate? I know the politics of it want us to be all separate,
right,
um, internationally and domestically,
right.
but that's the wrong way to go about this. Let's throw politics out the window for this situation here. This is a really bad global scale human problem that we all need to fight as human beings. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
yeah.
Well, man, thank
So
you.
let's do that.
Go ahead.
All right.
I was going to say
I
thank
just want
you.
to say let's do that together. And if anybody's out there and you see someone getting bullied because they're Asian or whatever, like help them out a little bit. You know, it's not happening to someone like me who's 6'1", 180 pounds. It's happening to younger people, women, older people, and that's not right because they're getting picked on because they look perceivably weak. So you got to help them out and stand up for them.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments too, and I think it's just it's crazy. Like, it doesn't make any sense to do anything like that. It reminds me, actually, there was a case I was in 7-Eleven, and a lady said something to the lady behind the counter about her bringing the virus to the country, and I'm thinking to myself, how stupid is that?
Yeah,
Like,
that's not right.
yeah, yeah,
And the other thing is, it's like that's not constructive. It's not going to solve this problem,
right,
at all, one bit and one anyway. So let's take the hate away and let's use some love to take care of each other.
agreed,
Yeah.
agreed, agreed. Well, man, it's been fun as always. Thank
All
you
right.
so much for hanging out. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the stream. It was nice to have him on, and for you to spend some time with us as always is major, man. And we remain huge ITB fans. Please make sure that you are taking care of yourself. You guys are staying safe over there at the Wu
Stay safe,
household,
everyone.
and all of you guys as well out there. Make sure you're staying safe, and please answer the protocols that they have in place. I know some people are saying I'm not
Yeah.
wearing a mask because it seems silly or not. If they ask you to wear a mask, wear a mask. Do what they ask you to do to keep yourself safe. So
Yeah. I think there's a lot of professionals that know what we should be doing. We should be listening to them. I don't think any of us common civilians, we shouldn't think we know better
right,
than what we're being told. So stay in place, shelter in place as long as you can. Try not to go outside, and if you do, wear a mask, protect yourself, and protect others.
agreed. All right,
Yep.
bro.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
I will talk to you soon, man. I appreciate again you hanging out with us. Thanks everybody for
Thank
hanging
you,
out
Al.
as well. And we're gonna wrap this up. So with that, you guys, I will see you on the next live stream. We stream every Monday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this was a lot of fun, you guys. Thank you so much. And with that, I will see you on the next video. Peace.